Today, we're talking about the A7 III. What we like about it, what we don't like about it, would we recommend it in 2021? Back in 2018, I was relatively new to filmmaking and I was shooting a handful of weddings. My camera at the time was the Canon A7iii, and there were things I actually liked about it, but it struggled with sharpness and it struggled in low lighting situations. Now, one of the things that I particularly really like about the Sony A7 III is its low light capability. And I'll put up some examples here of the Canon A7iii in low light, the camera I used to use, versus the Sony A7 III. It's definitely much better with grain and all the issues you get when you have to bump up the ISO. Another thing that drew me to the Sony A7 III was the fact that it has 120 frames per second capability, and I do a really wide range of filmmaking and videography, and so some people that's not that important, but for me I wanted to be able to do those super slow-mo shots, and in combination with all the other things, that was a selling point for someone with my needs. So
I wouldn't want to live without 120 frames per second.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That is like so fantastic. 120, man, people shooting in 120, even better is 240, but
sure.
you know, it's amazing. And if you can pull it off, get 120 frames per second in your camera, I will say that much. Now, is it 100% necessary? No, and actually 60 even gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. If you're looking to play around with filmmaking and videography, you're just getting started and you don't have the budget, you're going to do fine. You're going to have a lot of fun with 60. But it's just a whole nother level if you can get up to the 120. Yeah. Another thing that I really like about the Sony A7 III is the dynamic range.
When we're talking about dynamic range, we're just talking about that ability to see highlights and shadows in a wider range.
Right. And kind of closer to what the human eye. When you go outside and there's a shadowy tree and a bright lake, your eye can see all that range and cameras can't. A lot of times one thing's blown out and the other thing's super dark, or vice versa.
The human eye, I don't know if cameras will ever get there. Maybe they will, but I mean, the human eye is amazing. The way God designed our human eye is off the charts.
Yeah, I don't think cameras will catch up. That's my opinion on it. So when I was shooting with the Canon A7iii, one of the selling points on that was autofocus. I got used to the good autofocus. I was trying to find another camera that had good autofocus.
That's why I was gonna dump. That's why I was gonna dump Nikon.
Was it? Yeah.
Because on video they had no autofocus tracking.
At that time, people were saying, "No, Canon has by far the best autofocus. You're not going to be able to match it." And you know what? This is close, if not as good as what I had on the Canon A7iii. So that was another huge selling feature for me with the kind of shooting I do, to have that option. You know, I've had other cameras that I like, and we can talk about sometime, like the GH5. I don't pull that out for a lot of different things, even though it's a good camera, because of that reason. So good autofocus on the Sony A7 III.
Does that one, is that in that, I would imagine that that camera is fairly advanced, probably has the eye detect AF.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep. It's also really good for photography. It's got a lot of good feedback from photographers. Now I use it for real estate photography. It's great for that. But my wife, she does a lot of portrait photography and things like that, and she loves it. Now, there's a couple negatives too, and we'll get into that, I promise.
White balance. But they improved that, right? I mean, in all seriousness. I mean, I bought the camera, folks. You have to understand, I bought a Sony. It wasn't producing a good yellow spectrum. It made everything too yellow. Mm-hmm. That's what I was having problems with.
And that was a very common concern that people had with Sonys, was the color science. Prior to the release of the Sony A7 III, I don't know exactly when it was, but it's prior to 2018, Sony really bumped up their game in the color science. And it's debatable. You can still debate all the companies. You can, put them up against each other, and everyone has a different favorite, but it's definitely better than what it used to be. And a lot of those problems are solved. And if you go on the message boards and the videos, you'll see that a lot of people are talking about how, like what Neil said, they had trouble with it, and then it got much better for them. You may have seen the Tony and Chelsea Northrup video on color science. We'll link it below. But it was just really an amazing video that compared all these different brands, and it didn't let people know which brand they were, and it let people pick, Canon's for sure going to have the best color science, right? And it was just really cool to see how it really didn't matter as much as we all think it does. And I recommend checking that video out if you haven't already seen it. Probably the thing that comes up practically the most for me, which is still pretty rare, is the fact that Sony is 8-bit color. Don't let that confuse you. It sounds like a potentially complicated thing, but what it really comes down to is this has millions and millions of color combinations, but if you have 10-bit, you have billions of combinations. Practically the way it affects me is every once in a while when I'm doing a color grade, it rarely, but sometimes it'll get blotchy and patchy, and so my next purchase will probably be something that has 10-bit, but that's really for me practically the only downside, and it's pretty rare. If you guys have any questions, hey, hit us up. We would love to help you. We want to be like your friends that you can reach out to and get information from, and if we can help you, we're not going to try to push Sony or Nikon or Canon. We just want to help you get started and move forward with wherever you're at in the process. We're kind of all a community together, all kind of having the same goals and trying to succeed and help each other out.
So folks, a quick favor, if you like the content, if you like the video, we're a new channel right now, and subscribers are everything, so please subscribe to the channel.
We would appreciate it very much, and thank you so much for joining us.